Greetings and God bless. So I was thinking about a conversation I had where I was saying how a practitioner that was teaching a class did not give sufficient guidance and warning about the effects of the main product used in the class, in the training, in the certification. A good friend of mine was saying that, well, I shouldn't have standards, that there's no way that this expert dealing with people with chronic illness would be able to know that like it's about ferments, and ferments can erode your teeth. And my friend was like, well, there's no way she could have known that, it would affect certain people differently. And the thing is, anybody who's getting into fermentation, anybody who's a healing arts practitioner with a lot of chronic illness, they have had to do a lot of research. And certain things to avoid. And if your expertise is ferments, you should know the dangers. We know about histamine and the fact that acid in lemon erodes your teeth. You don't want to suck on raw lemons because that's going to erode your tooth enamel. Eating a ferment at the end of the night is going to erode your tooth enamel. And, I think an expert should tell you that. Uh, just like, I don't know. So that's just my opinion. And so my friend was like, well, that's wrong. Like you're like, you really shouldn't expect that. But what I notice is of certain people, of certain classes with like where, the like there's financial stability, even despite, and the funny thing is the friends of mine who were like Marxist activists, they were a heroin using junkie living on the street that would throw trash on the street though. Like this was a Mexican Chinese guy who, when he threw his trash, like unwrapping his cigarettes, I was like, don't throw the trash on the street. And he's like, this isn't my street. Like there's this weird, so it's not white privilege because this guy was Chinese Mexican, who was American, and like a friend of mine from college who's like a Marxist, even though he's done the conservative, conventional Christian lifestyle because it's lucrative. It makes you money. It gives you stability. It allows you to travel. It allows you discretionary income. You get to eat out. You have status. And so what I noticed, like with this other friend who was telling me I shouldn't have standards, is like, so she was on the side of the negligent teacher who got $4,000 and disappeared. Like that was another thing. And I'm told, well, it's okay for somebody to charge a lot of money to give you a certification and then to disappear, so your certification is irrelevant because anybody can make a certification like logo. So it's really stupid. Like it's useless to have this certification because people are like, who is that practitioner? They don't have any presence on the internet other than like LinkedIn or something like that. And anybody can be on LinkedIn. Um, so what I realize is like the people that I knew who were, back in the 90s, who were like a vegan, or at the time it was like a vegetarian. Like vegan was very extreme, very rare. But it's like their own little country club. Like these little punk rockers that were squatting in a building or sleeping on the beach. This was their country club. This was their little group. And like the Marxists who are in academia, like they're in their little country club. They're like, oh, I'm better than the conservative Christian establishment, even though I'm benefiting from it. My parents were in that establishment, and I'm going to inherit. I have inherited all of the stability, because I've taken the steps that would win their approval and their support. Like I'm realizing there's just all these little country clubs, whether you're some punk rocker sleeping on the beach or some Marxist academician, you know, like voting against everything that provided for your parents and yourself and your children, like supporting the Marxist agenda while benefiting from what um, free market capitalism and Christianity has benefited. Like everybody's just in their little club, um, and yeah, there's some of the nice people, just but it's yeah, and like there's these little rules when you're in the club, like it's like when you're in the little country club, like Fight Club was a country club, like so in the club, in the Masons, like the Masonic rule is you do everything to protect the other Masons, even no matter what, no matter if you're killing the whole country, no matter if you're doing the worst things, like protecting other Masons is the most important thing. And I think that there's like casual Marxists, casual punk rockers and stuff that don't understand, but they have the intuition, and then there's like onesie twosie, like one every million or one every 500,000. There's somebody who's really about truth, who really care about the truth. Like I heard that quote. It was Isaac Newton. Aristotle's my friend, Plato's my friend, but my best friend is truth. And either and the thing that I get from Newton is that he was very neutral. He didn't make a stand. He didn't make public his strongly held belief. So the satanic anti-Christian people weren't didn't destroy his legacy, didn't erase him, and he navigated Christians too, so they didn't get rid of him. So that was very clever, because people who do make a stand, like Sir Thomas More, when he objected to Henry VIII's like divorcing his wives. Even though Thomas More and Henry VIII were friends, Henry VIII killed had Thomas More. I think it was a burn on the cross, not burn on the cross, but I think he was executed. Um, so anyway, um, so when somebody really stands for the truth and they're maybe naive or stubborn or I don't know what, um, maybe so identified with the truth to their own self-destruction. So people who are very good at the truth either become some sort of hero, or they become a martyr, or they're discredited, and their name is tarnished for posterity. So, and I am wondering because, like there was a scientist, a doctor, who discovered that medical students were killing uh, pregnant women, women giving birth, because these medical students were handling cadavers, doing dissections of cadavers, and then going into childbirthing rooms and touching, killing the baby, killing the mother, because of all the bacteria from the cadavers that they were putting in the mucous membrane and vulnerable parts of the body of these women. So women under doctor's care were dying in droves, but women under midwife's care were remaining alive. And oh well, doctors don't like that, but they were like, what, oh, it couldn't be washing the hands, because that's what the midwives were doing. Midwives were washing their hands before they handled the pregnant woman about to give birth and the baby. So, but the guy who discovered this and insisted upon this, he ended up in a mental institution and apparently died of sepsis. And I consider these kind of things some type of deliberate engineering. because the trusted agents of the public good do not have the truth, do not have your interests at heart. They only have their interests at heart, and they like to see you suffer. And and they've got people brainwashed enough, so there's like nice enough, capable people who are I guess kind of dumb, kind of naive, that keep like participate in human society, because the predators that are in charge and their minions, they still need reproduction. They still need human bodies walking around. They still need somebody at the gas station, because these evil satanic globalists harboring demons, they killed all humans. There'd be nothing for them to do. There'd be no conflict. There'd be no grist for their mill. So they do need some bipeds around to keep things interesting, to give them their adrenochrome, to give them children to torture. So there's these dumb people, and unfortunately, that's a lot of people, and I would say a lot of people that I know and care for and love, but reality is painful. It's painful to acknowledge, to see, because then you're like, what do I do? And God, hurry up, like, because it just seems like something's wrong, and God's not addressing it on your timeline. So it's very stressful. It really takes some like letting go and reading scripture and Bible study to cope. And there's probably other things as well. So I am thinking that, there are people throughout time. I mean, I know there are people throughout time who have seen the problem, and they get discredited for pointing it out, for saying anything. And, they're called crazy or criminal or something like that. And that's why humans are devolving. That's why things are so messed up. And it's not the globalists' fault. It's their friends and family who turn a blind eye, who don't want to hear it, who turn against the friend or family member who's pointing out the problem. Like during when people were told to stay at home in 2020, and everybody went along with it, even though the majority knew nothing was going to be getting them if they went outside their door, if they went to the park, if they went to the store, because people were going to the store, people were going to the restaurant. The more expensive restaurants were not enforcing suffocation, and so that to me was like clear class warfare. But if you were, going to a free clinic, or I'm thinking a homeless shelter, or I noticed this at the library, they were forcing the behavior. But if you're rich, they're not going to force the behavior, because they want you to spend $200 at the meal. So they're not going to force you to suffocate yourself unless you want to, unless you choose to. And nobody was choosing to at the expensive restaurant that I would walk by during when everybody was told to lock down and be afraid. But during that time where we were told to, in the spring of 2020, where everybody was told to stay at home and be afraid, 300,000 people committed suicide. And that was, I think, a period of 3 months. It was like, was it March, April, May, or something like that? And I mentioned this to my pro-coercion friends, my friends who believe in forcing masking, forcing injections, forcing firing, because somebody believes their autoimmune system is more powerful than a questionable, like a non-approved compilation of ingredients. And I don't want to say the word, because even though very few people are watching this, for some reason, Big Brother doesn't want me to say certain things. So anyway, So 300,000 people killed themselves in 2020 during the time we were told to stay inside, like the spring of 2020. And I think that was not just their fault. I think it was their friends, their family, their coworkers, the people around them, their neighbors or whatever, that were so afraid of fresh air that they they thought their friends, family, neighbors should die, because of that person's, because of the pro coercion person's fear of air. And so I am actually wondering if suicide is actually engineered sometimes by one's family, friends, neighbors, even providers, even their own psychiatrists or nurses or something like that. Because like this, the thoughts that got me thinking about this is this friend of mine who's like, yeah, you shouldn't really expect the expert fermentationist to know that ferments erode can erode your tooth enamel. So basically, I was told that the expert shouldn't know what their main product can do, like the harm it can do. Like I was told that the expert gets excuses. So, and by a good friend, by somebody I consider my best friend. So when we have, your best friend is telling you you're wrong, you don't deserve to be protected, you don't deserve to be informed, you don't deserve expert information from the experts, from the so-called premier expert. You don't deserve it. You shouldn't expect it. But then the friend will complain about their new computer having a problem or some weird government thing or some bureaucracy. so so when do we have standards? Like so we and what I get is that I shouldn't have standards, but other people get to have standards because people will complain about this, that, and the other thing. But when I bring up something that I think is important, folks try to get me to rationalize. Oh well, it's okay. And and so I'm wondering, because from what I understand about suicide is people think that there's no way out. They do it because they're trapped. And I learned this when I was in Montana, Missoula, Montana, which is the top place for suicides, or at least it was before 2019. And I talked to the police chaplain who was volunteering this. I didn't even ask him about this. He said it wasn't because somebody was poor, and it wasn't because somebody was rich, because he was like, it was homeless people committing suicide, it was millionaires committing suicide. And the gist I get is that people feel trapped. And I think rich, millionaires feel trapped in their marriages because the wife just wants the husband for the luxury he can provide, so the income he can provide. And yeah, like wives and girlfriends could be so mercenary, like the mothers of people's children could be so mercenary, it seems. And it's like a career or something like that. And men are naive and maybe dumb, or they don't even know how to handle these malignant narcissistic women that they gravitate towards. And that's probably some sort of social engineering. And I think it's also a supernatural issue as well, because like women, I think, have become more demonized. I would say the past maybe 15 years. I don't know if it was something to do with the Obama administration and Michael, his husband or whatever. And but yeah, like women, like, I mean, everybody has problems all my life. I didn't like the teachers at my school, or, female adults, because they were just so mean. And then male adults were always trying to molest me. So it's just like, I didn't like adults at all because nobody was trustworthy, and nobody was really trying to protect me. And And I was told to be an obedient kid, so I wasn't allowed to have boundaries. So it was just this real difficult thing to navigate as a child, just protecting my own, sanctity of my private parts. Um, but I think that people who are committing suicide are feeling like, well, my friends don't believe I deserve any standards. My family doesn't believe I deserve any standards. My doctors don't believe I deserve any standards. And but if we look at truth, if we look at like existential philosophical stuff, you do. Like that's what it says. That's the philosophy, the logic, and the sacred belief that America is based on is like the golden rule. It's not I get to do a smash and grab, and you just can't expect any standards. The thing is, those people who are doing smash and grabs, if they went into a fancy store, Louis Vuitton, but it was all Dollar Tree quality, so those smash and grab people will be like, "What? This isn't fine leather. This is fake Chinese leather. How dare they?" Right? So it's strange because there's this double standard about standards, and when somebody has the integrity and the courage to say, "Hey, we have to have standards," their friends and family, neighbors, community will turn against them. And then, so after that person offs themselves or moves or has a breakdown or starts doing drugs and is some, you know, invisible person now. So the friends, family, community has gotten rid of that person who had the courage to speak the truth, who had the intelligence to see to connect the dots. Because if you look at a lot of the commentary that's done by cogent, lucid speaking homeless people, they're very sharp. They're brilliant. They're genius. Like that, some of the most intelligent people I've met were homeless people, because the system is just too frustrating and dumb and stultifying. And they created great art and stuff like that. So then though, so the friends, family, community, they have the truth, the one true person with integrity and intelligence. They have them kill themselves or remove themselves from society, from legitimacy. And then 10, 20, 30 years later, their community, country is messed up, is dying, is overtaken by evil. And they're like, how did this happen? It happened because you didn't listen to the person who was pointing out the problem. You didn't want to hear, you didn't want to deal with it, you just wanted to have your party, you just wanted to numb yourself out with this, that, and the other. You just wanted your money, you just wanted your status, and you thought you could take all of that and get rid of that person who speaks the truth, making you uncomfortable, and you thought it would just be all gravy. But no, in order for a country, a neighborhood, or whatever to have blessings of peace, serenity, kids bicycling on the street and people walking their perambulator with the baby in it, and a guy selling balloons, and a hot dog stand and coffee shop and a grocery store and a flower shop. Like, in order to have all of those things, you can't just be like, I'm going to show up and sell a product. I'm going to shut down any dissent. Like, that's not how you are going to have a good civilization. You have to have a dialogue, you have to have honesty, you have to have integrity. I'm not saying you have perfection, because we can never have perfection, because we're just human beings, we're messed up people. But you can't be gaslighting the person who tells you the truth. And the person who tells you the truth is often the person with the least amount of leverage, because the person who's interested in the truth, the facts, and putting the dots together, are not interested in a big show. They're not interested in having an entourage and all this credibility that can bribe you, because the folks that people listen to oh, it's the Kardashians or Taylor Swift or whoever. People who are sold out, who are, just icons used to manipulate really dumb people. Um, but when somebody who has a lot of like a big business in the area, let's say you're running a hospital or you're running a Walmart or something, you are Walmart. Uh, People will listen to you because they think they can get something out of it. So I think people will listen to somebody that they think they can get something out of you. But the person who's the truther, the person who has the courage, the integrity, and the time and the inclination to connect the dots and speak about it, they're not building a freaking business. They're not building some type of social control system. Their job is just to see reality and communicate it effectively to somebody who will listen. But people don't want to listen. And I know this is engineered, but when you don't listen to your clever friend, the friend who's or the family member who is to be trusted. They tell you the uncomfortable thing, but they're trustworthy people. Their intentions are good. That they that you don't have the time or the interest to figure it out. So and people would rather this good, trustworthy family member, friend, member of the community just disappear than have their conscience be pricked by the truth of what this person says or integrity. And so what you see is what you get. This catastrophic social decline. And I really do hold people responsible um, for being so uncaring about their family members, their friends, because uh, everybody loves watching puppy rescue videos or wild animal rescue videos or buy a forest tree to save a forest video or activist or something like that, Greenpeace whale saving. But people won't do the same amount of effort. They won't deliver the same amount of concentration to their family member or their friend or that person in their community that they see all the time begging for money on the highway or something like that. And I really think that's despicable. I mean, I like watching, funny kitten videos or something like that. But um like people are donating to or spending millions on or whatever, not spending millions. I mean, an individual generally doesn't have millions to spend, but they're spending money. They're spending their discretionary income on Snopes or the Democratic National Party or something like that, or BLM or Antifa, thinking that something like this is going to help disadvantaged people, when in fact that those people who are donating know somebody who has who in their family who could use some time, who could use some moral support, who could use uh, some help. But instead of helping that person that they know or that person in their neighborhood that they see all the time, or donating to a local volunteer run kind of a thing, or a church or something that helps disadvantaged people. People are going to do exotic donations, um, thinking that they're saving the world. Like I think honestly that Christian churches should send missionaries. I mean missionaries to their own towns instead of going to Africa or something like that. And I know, I guess there's this thing in the Bible where you have to have missionaries out to go to the ends of the earth to share the good news because that's when Jesus is going to return. But honestly, it is useless to go to Africa, maybe where they finally get the good news accurately, but when everybody in America doesn't even have the good news. Like the majority, I think the 90% maybe 99% of Christians don't even understand the good news. They don't know 1 Corinthians 15, 1 through 4 and Romans 3:25, that we are saved by faith in the shed blood of Jesus Christ, that the sinless blood redeems us, saves us, and that when we believe on his death, burial, and resurrection and the blood, when we have faith and belief in the death, burial, and resurrection and the shed blood, then we are saved. Majority of Christians I know don't believe that. They're like, oh, you got to go get baptized, and it's like, oh, well, how do you do, what kind of water do I have to do? A full body immersion? Can it just be a little bit of water? Can I baptize myself? Do I have to go to a special person, a special place? Like all of this deception, all this distraction, when our salvation, and because like even some pastors don't even know what salvation is, and I'm like, you've been a pastor for a long time, for years, every Sunday, and you don't know what salvation is. So it's useless to send people to Africa if people in your own congregation, if your pastor doesn't even know what salvation is. So that's useless, because okay, so you've gotten everybody saved in Africa, Asia, and South America, but America's totally unsaved. So it's really confusing. And it, it's due to the fallen nature of a human being. Excuse me. But really, folks, like, take care of your family, your friends, your community. Stop donating to somebody in Timbuktu saving llamas in Alapalooza or something like that. All right. And when you have a friend or family member or acquaintance who is trustworthy, who is intelligent and motivated and pro-social, they care, and if they're pointing out something, don't gaslight them, don't invalidate them. Be supportive. Just all that help that you're wanting to care about llamas or whatever, sending missionaries to Africa, like, care about that person that's right in front of you. And that's the thing. Like, people don't care. Like, majority of people that I know from a long time, they don't respond to, like, friends and family don't respond to my emails, texts, postcards. And yeah, because they're busy, you know, they're busy with their new friend, their new whatever, recreational, whatever. They got to travel. And the thing is, though, like, you really should take care of the real human beings that are in your life and that are reaching out to you. Like, people will care for, like gratuitous stuff, and I know it's like it's taboo for me to say, but they'll take that, they're spending all their time and care and relationship building on their pets, on their cats or their dogs, not even on their spouses and children necessarily. And and I think that is also kind of a problem, because everybody's like, oh, well, I can't rely on a boyfriend or have a wife or husband, it's not going to work out, so I'm just going to have a pet. Or people are married, but their primary relationship was with their dog or cat. I mean, it's kind of disgusting and creepy for me to put it like that. And I'm not saying that people are sleeping with their pets. I'm saying that their emotional relationship was with their pet. Their primary emotional source is with their pet. And maybe they have friends who are reaching out or whatever, but it's like too much of a hassle to deal with friends or family on a deep emotional level, perhaps, or on a intellectual level. So they ghost those people except for maybe holidays or formal family get-togethers or formal family or formal friend get-together kind of marriages or whatever. But people are like, oh, I'm just gonna take it easy and just take care of my dog or my cat, and just spend quality time with an animal. And I think that is actually um, it's a capitulation from the human experience. And I do think animals are great. Um, they're not hypnotized, and so they're a good role model for this catastrophe that we're in. But I think it's a cop out to not keep up with your friends and family, and just using your pet or your video games or whatever as a replacement for the mess that can be relating. And again, you know, my point is though, like there's like the one truther, in your family friend group or neighborhood person that is honest, trustworthy, and they will talk about the difficult thing that needs to be talked about. They'll bring up the difficult thing that needs to be brought up. And when you shut that person down, when you gaslight them, you not only isolate them, kind of contribute to killing them, but you lose out as well. You lose out as a human being. You lose out. Your community loses out when you're just like, oh, I just want to have my peace of mind. I've just been at work all day. I just want to just blindly, get a little drunk on the weekends, and I just want to get through my day. And don't bother me, person that is telling the truth and putting two and two together and um, offering a good caution. Like, So I think, and I'm not sure about this, but I do wonder if people who commit suicide are those who are ignored or gaslit by their friends, their family, their community, their health healing providers, told that, oh, they're mistaken about this, that, and the other thing. Because there's so much gaslighting all my life. Like people try to poo-poo me, like close people, like friends, family, poo-poo what I say, but I can find books, like formal references validating my point. Government agencies, three-letter agencies, stuff on the internet validating what I'm saying. So I know it's right. But people are so attached to their hypnosis, or they're so attached to maybe putting me down or something, or people like me down. Maybe that's part of the hypnosis. So, um, yeah, if you don't want to be kind of like responsible for the decline of civilization, humanity, and the sudden loss of loved ones, give them an ear, hear them out. Don't tell them they're wrong, especially when they're not wrong, right? You could say, I just can't handle this. Like, you're probably right, but I just don't have the bandwidth to deal with this. Like, a lot of my friends say that. They're like, I don't even understand what this is about. But they don't, like, so some don't tell me I'm wrong, which is okay. They're just like, some say, I don't want to hear about this kind of stuff. Okay. But enough people say you're wrong when you're not. They haven't looked at it, and they won't. They'll willfully, gleefully, blatantly avoid looking into it, but still tell you you're wrong. And that's just despicable. And the strange thing is though, when the crisis strikes them, they're like, oh, this happened to me. Oh, so it's like they just want to be numbed out and comfortable in their little world bubble. And but when mean, that's the thing. Crises are a wake-up call. And when these people who are willfully ignorant, naive, or kind of gleefully rejecting facts, when something bad happens to them, they're going to want sympathy. They want sympathy. Which brings me back to this friend of mine who kind of was implying that I shouldn't have any standards. So, like, when I was talking about tooth crumbling from a fermentation program that I took, where I was taught by an expert who was giving me a certification, who failed to mention that ferments can harm your tooth enamel. So my friend was like, "Oh, there was no way she could have known that ferments are hard on the teeth." She was an expert. She was giving a certification, but somehow, I'm supposed to just um, like just roll with it or whatever. Like my friend just blithely, like said that that it was no big deal or whatever. But this very friend will complain about this, that, and the other thing. And that's what I find so frustrating. And I've noticed this with family members and other people is they'll poo-poo when I bring up something that happened to me, but then something happens to them and they're like so distressed about it and talking about it and da 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 and expecting sympathy. And maybe this is just human nature of this double standard where I don't deserve sympathy. I don't deserve any standards, but they deserve standards. They deserve sympathy. And I don't understand what that dynamic is, but it's wrong. Everybody deserves standards. You pay $4,000 for a class using a product a lot. You should be warned, oh, well, this product used too much can, with certain people with chronic illnesses, which is a majority of whoever takes a class in something like this, well, it can erode your tooth enamel. But I don't know, some people just don't think you are worthy of those kind of standards, or certain people are worthy. And I think it is a class issue. I think like if I was running a lucrative business and stuff like that, and I had to overlook something big like that, this friend of mine would say, "Oh yeah, it's not your fault at all," But being that I'm not a big spender, being like, I think like some folks are kind of bribed by how wealthy their friends are. Like because even if the wealthy friend isn't gonna help with a mortgage or something like that, like they can, they help pay for the trip to another place or whatever. Like they help pay for the hotel because you get the hotel suite together or something like that. And so I think like when there's this option of a financial incentive, then your friends will be on your side. But when you do not offer any financial incentive, your friends are like, get over it, like they'll tell you, I guess, what they really think because they've got nothing to lose. And it's good. I think I'd rather know what my friends really think, but I think it's wrong. I'm going to tell them that they're wrong, just because I'm not wealthy or whatever. Like I still should get decent standards. I should get the same standards as somebody who's wealthy, like in taking a class, and I shouldn't have to deal with consequences. Sort of like, when you get dental care, I think people are like, oh, if you get free medical care, free dental care, free anything, that if it harms you, or even the thing is, like for this class that I'm talking about, like I got funding for $4,000 to pay the practitioner, to pay the teacher, to pay for the certification. So it wasn't like they even got anything like that I got anything for free. Like I worked hard to do an application to get this grant, and I got it. It's just really weird. Like it's almost like it's random or something. Like if you're involved, and like this friend of mine was talking about how there's all these problems with Amazon, or some sort of problem with something purchased online and being on the phone for an hour. So like I feel like if I complained about Amazon or being on the phone for an hour, she'd be like, you shouldn't have such high standards. That's just how it is. And that's maddening. That's like kind of gaslighting when I don't get to have human decency applied to me by my very friends or family. Like I don't deserve human decency, you know? I'm probably not the only one who experiences this. And so I think for some people it's very distressing. So if you have people in your friend or family or community group who are humble and decent and honest, but they also connect the dots and tell you the truth, like don't gaslight them. Don't poo-poo them, and don't have a double standard where they should accept bad circumstances, but then you should get deserve better circumstances. Like that's just so demoralizing and depressing and insulting. And it's like with somebody like that, who needs enemies? With friends like that, who needs enemies? If your friend doesn't think you deserve um, safe learning conditions, when you're taking a class, and you're left like maimed, and with ongoing injury because of the class you took and the practitioner didn't tell you what you needed to know. So hopefully that makes sense. I was just trying to work things out in my own head. So anyways, it's probably Big Brother and AI combing through every word here. And you know what? I do appreciate your attention. But if there's a real human being watching, if you have any thoughts about this, please comment. Any constructive comments, please comment below. Thank you.